moments of meditation. We'll, so one of the things that I always say when we do meditation on Thursdays is it's a chance to practice. Meditation is always a practice. And we become silent, and we go within, and whatever is going on in our environment, we just let it be. Just let it be. Don't hold on to it at all. So get settled in your seat. Focus on your breath. Take a deep breath in, and feel your body just relax fully into the seat. Feel your chair, the couch at home, if you're at home, on Facebook Live. Just settle in and be at rest. Several meditation teachers teach us that as we meditate, comfort is king. Comfort is queen. So just be and relax in your seat. Feel the chair, the couch, the sofa, wherever you are, fully supporting your body so that you can fully be. And as we relax the body, we inhale. And then as you exhale, let any tension or anxiety or stress that you may be holding somewhere in your body, just let it go, just for a few moments. Again, take another deep breath in and just release. As you scan your body, see if you are aware of any place that you are holding tension. Sometimes we hold a lot of stress and tension in our shoulders. Just relax your shoulders, let them go, let them drop. Same for the face. And our jaw, we bite our jaw. Just relax for a few moments. Scan your torso and your legs and your feet down, all the way down your body, just to fully relax. And then continue to breathe. As we relax the body, now we can relax the mind. Just relax and let the thoughts, any outside sounds, just let them go. Return to the breath. If you hold on to any thought or it takes you off somewhere, just come back to the breath. That's the practice of meditation. Keep returning to the breath and to the center of your being. Breathe deeply into that place where you know who and what you are. There's one life and one love. That life is God, my life right now. Know this truth at the depth of your being. Find that spot where you intuitively know that the presence of the divine lives and moves and has being in you. And again, breathe. So I invite you in your mind's eye to envision that you're standing next to a body of water, and you have a long stick, and you put the stick in the water. And then you reach down with the other hand and you stir the water up. The stick then looks like it's bent. It's not straight. But in reality, if you go under the water and open your eyes, have the faith to open your eyes, you'll see that it's an illusion, that the stick is actually straight. So it is with confusion most of the time in our life. It exists as a condition, just like the bent stick appears, but not as a reality. The mirage is your own consciousness. If confusion comes, we use the tools of our practice for meditation, affirmation, and denials, and to dive deep into the pool of the peace that resides in you. So through an act of faith, open your eyes and you will see there is no confusion. No matter what confusion appears on the surface of your life, there is always a place of calm at the center of your being. I invite you to turn your awareness and your attention to that place of calm. That place where no matter the turbulence on the surface of the waves that may be on the surface, beneath there's a changeless peace, and you are being submerged in that peace. So now, as we prepare to sit in the silence for a few moments, turn that confusion, if it exists, into something deeper within, and say, in your mind's eye, say, I am submerged in peace. I am surrounded by peace. I am enmeshed in peace. There is nothing but peace. Peace, deep, calm, and undisturbed. Peace. Rest in the silence. Rest in your own inner self and your own inner being in this place where at the depth of your being there is peace. In the silence. In the silence. In the silence. No matter the confusion on the outer, on the surface of your life, there is always a place of calm at the center of your being. Take a deep breath as you breathe that to this place where this reality of peace exists in you. Now I invite you to take a deep breath in, fully exhaling, and begin to wiggle your fingers and toes, roll your shoulders, and very gently be gentle with yourself to come back to this room, to this time and place. Another deep breath. And when you come back to here, bring that place of peace with you. As we walk to live in peace and love, we are the peace and love we wish to see in the world, and we bring that back when we go into meditation in our practice. So wiggle your fingers and toes again, and when you're comfortable, you can open your outer eyes. So thank you. So Bill gave us a good sneak preview of today's talk. It's a continuation from Finding Yourself in Transition by Robert Brummett. The void. Many times, as Bill said a couple weeks ago, he talked about endings. How in the week before that was the paradox of change. Change leads to endings, usually, or a transition in our life, some kind of change. So Bill had a great personal experience about that. I'm sure all of us could sit and talk about the transitions in our lives and how we have processed those to new beginnings, which is the third piece next week. But first is the void. It sounds ominous, doesn't it? Being in the void. Sounds dark, fearful, a fearful place. But yet it's a healing place as well. It's all of that. It can be all of that. When I was looking for thoughts about this today, I found some old files I had where I'd taken 2 classes from Robert Brummett quite a few years ago. And he had written on there, so it was a very good thing to remember that. And it made me remember some of the endings that I was going through at the time. Again, this was almost 30 years ago, not quite. He's a very gentle man, and so he wrote this book as a result of some of his transitions that were happening in his life. I remember it was being published about the time I was taking these classes. So we talk about the void, and if you've had any significant transitions in your life, and I'm sure all of you have, you know about this period that we're calling it, we're naming it the void. Confusion, loss, anger, grief, whatever you call it. It's an ending. An ending is what was once more but is not more, is what is no longer more. And when change occurs leading to transition in our life, we have a myriad of feelings about it. Again, guilt, remorse, eventually grief. And so as I was thinking about this and probably looking at the papers from Robert Brummett that I was reading, I went, wow. My mind just went to the transitions in my life. Now, these are just what came to me, so we'll talk about this in just a minute. My dad abandoned our family when I was 12. My parents divorced shortly after that. We moved from Chattanooga, my mom and 2 sisters, and dad at the time moved from Chattanooga, our home, to Panama City for 1 year when I was a sophomore in high school. Stayed here 1 year, then we moved back to Chattanooga. A couple years later, I started college at Tennessee Tech in Cookeville, Tennessee. Then I got married in college, had my first son while I was graduating from college. If you don't think having a baby is a transition in your life, or if you had one, you know, big transition. I started a new job as an engineer in Nashville, birth of my second son, Daniel, and then a period of active alcohol addiction. I should just say addiction in general. It was work, food, everything you can imagine. Started recovery from addiction in a 30-day inpatient treatment center. It was a separation, a divorce, 4 years of living alone, a second marriage that happened 22 years ago. So now, Chris, we can play the home movies for each one of these. So let's play the home movie for each one of those stories. It's what it sounded like, right? Yeah. So no, not quite. Not going to do that. Most of those would be pretty ugly. Most of them would have to come directly from my mind, and they probably would be pretty ugly. Wouldn't be very entertaining either. But the reason I list these is because I thought about the void that was with each one of those. Each one of those transitions, there was a period of void. At the time, I didn't know that probably and ignored it. Some of these were very short, some are very long. But I'm sure your mind goes to those things, those major events that have happened in your life, and you think about how to process them, or how did you process them? How did you get through them? We rest in the void, in this place of, it's a place of unknowing. Several teachers call it a place of unknowing. I really like that better than just a dark place. It's a place where we don't know. An ending can be like an earthquake. If the ending is like an earthquake, the void is likened to be lost in the desert or adrift on the endless sea. So now all the transitions I listed there in my life aren't earthquake transitions. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But they all follow by something that was very in common. After an ending and we are in the void, we hear this from meaning friends: snap out of it. Pull yourself together, man. Just get over it. I thought that was what I was, as an engineer, very logical mind, thought that that's what I was supposed to do, just suck it up and move on. Well, it wound up making me very sick. Turning to alcohol and drugs, and it just, it was a way of burying my past. It allowed me to bury the past, which is a very common thing to do after endings. Many of us, Robert Burmitt talks about that in the book. The void is where I lived, and many of us do during these transitions that occur, major life transitions in our life. And indeed, it is difficult to live in the void because it touches, like we've talked about, it touches our deepest fears. It's filled with guilt and shame. It's feelings of I'm not good enough. So is it any wonder that it's highly recommended that we don't make significant life changes in our lives while we exist in the void or are living in the void? Any counselor, any therapist, any group would tell you don't make any significant changes. While after one ending, don't make significant changes. So there are fewer changes and transitions, at least in my life. I won't speak for you because it's different for all of us. But there's fewer that have any more impact or fear and just that living in the unknown when it comes to recovery, 12-step recovery. And it's not just alcohol addiction or drugs. It can be whatever. Sometimes we are addicted to the way we think. That if we think that we're always right, that's an addiction. Richard Rohr has a book called Breathing Underwater, which is a great description of what it is like to be in active addiction, that you're trying to breathe underwater. And yet the book is not just for people that are addicted to drugs and alcohol. It's for all of us who think that we have all the answers. Our ego teaches that us more often in the West than most places. And I think it's because, as a general rule, we don't come apart and sit in meditation and let the ego take a break, if you will, or force the ego really to take a break. So, for example, in 12-step recovery that you're told, it's highly recommended. All the sponsors will tell you in AA and NA, they will tell you have no romantic or dating relationships for 1 year once you get into recovery. Do you think the stress of a relationship, if you're vulnerable to relapse, could happen if you're in a relationship, a romantic relationship, or a dating relationship? You know, that's just kind of what we do. But too many people, I know personally, think that they can change the rule. That's like living in the void. One of the rules is saying, don't make any major changes. But we think we know better, and the pain then is exacerbated, and there's a lot of relapse from that for whatever the addiction is. The transforming power, Robert Burmitt says in the book, he says, the transforming power of the transition process lies not in our arrival at a certain destination, but in our experience of the process itself. A transition is a journey, and the journey definitely has a period of void. It's usually darkness, or what we would call darkness, but not always. We are changed by the journey itself. We arrive a different person than when we departed on the journey. And I can attest to that in so many of the ones I read, particularly the 12-step recovery. it's a different person. The AA Big Book talks about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde personality change. I was called that several times by friends when I came out of recovery. It's just an amazing thing of what happens. So the void isn't necessarily empty and flat. It's not always like that, and there's many like that. Did you notice the song that Michael Gott sang? What I think and what I've experienced, that in the void, we may not see it right at first, but in the void, there's only love. There's only love. It's always that way, but particularly in the void. Sometimes when we can't take care of ourselves in the void after an ending, the love that's there takes care of us. We may not realize it, may not see it, but it's always there. There's something in us that is drawn to this to be protected, take care of us, to let us know that we're okay. We can see it later. Sometimes in the middle of it, it's hard to see it. You remember the poem Footprints in the Sand? We all know that. That's what the void describes to me. It's a good metaphor. So why is this so difficult for us? Well, I was reading somewhere else. I can't let go of something that can't let go of me. I can't let go of something I can't let go of. 6,000 burning bowls won't do it. 6,000 New Year resolutions won't do it. When it, whatever it is ready to let go of me, then I can let go. Last week, Michael Lister said something that I've repeated and talked about several times, that there's something about us that I use the 6-year-old. We talked about it after the talk the last couple weeks, that there's something about us, the innate being that we are, or at least I remember it from about 6 years old. I remember being that little boy, and I'm still that little boy today. Michael said it this way. He said it this way. He said the things that we work on in our life, if you will, the shadow, are basically the same today as they were during our development years, whatever that is. Now, doesn't mean we haven't made progress. Doesn't mean we constantly make progress. That's what he said. That's the way he said it last week. He gave an example. I heard another podcast, so I may be mixing some of what he said on the podcast with what he said last week. But what he's saying is that what are you struggling with, or where do you go into the void? He talked about patience. He's been working on patience his whole life since he was a teenager. Make progress, but you still work on it. We still work on it. That's part of what the shadow is. It's stuff that we still keep working on. So, we always think the shadow, and the reason I bring up the shadow side is because that's what pops up. All too often, that's what pops up when we're in the void. How are we going to get through this? How are we going to get through it? And by the way, the shadow is not just darkness. I've got a book that's titled The Golden Shadow, to indicate that the shadow isn't necessarily dark. It's a part of our wholeness. It's a wholeness that we bring together so that we embrace the whole self. In the void, Robert Brummett says, we shed the husk of our old identity. The false self we've been conditioned to believe is quote, me, and become more clear about who we really are. It can be a death of the old mortal self and a rebirth of eternal self with a capital S. And Buddhist teachings, meditation teachers, I think do it better than we do a lot of times in the Western civilization. They teach to have sacred emptiness as the state of one's true nature. So it's a process, a path of sacred emptiness. Taoist, Robert Brummett mentions Taoist teaching emphasizes emptying oneself in order to exist and to experience the Tao meaning the ultimate reality. Tao means God. So in pursuit of learning every day, something is acquired. In the pursuit of the Tao, something every day is dropped. But also Christian mystics have taught this value of emptying oneself. And I think, again, the void is what we enter, is when we have a period of void, is to empty ourselves into a state of nothingness. So maybe this is why we have so many endings in our lives. That came to the reason we have so many endings is so that we will go into this place of emptiness, this place where the ego doesn't have all the answers, or even thinks it does. Because the ego from the get-go would not choose to be in the state of nothingness. That's not what the ego does, is it? Yet the endings followed by the void forces us to this state of nothingness. I call it's a period of coming apart, a period of being in the void. Meister Eckhart, who we know as our mystic, Christian mystic, says God is not found in the soul by adding anything, but a process of subtraction. Richard Rohr calls this process, endings, void, new beginnings. He calls it order, disorder, and reorder. Order, disorder, and reorder. And that's what we go. The creation stories, all of the creation stories that we have, that we use as myth and as our teachings, all talk about it starting with emptiness, a place of darkness. New life emerges from this place. The creation story in Genesis is exactly like that. So here's the key: when I'm going through something, I am growing through it. So it's hard to do in the middle of it. It is for me. It's for all of us. So how do we do that? Robert Burns gives us several ways to do that. We have to learn to live life in a healthy way through the void. The value of the void. Acknowledge and accept the void for what it is. Accept the mystery of the void. I used to go to, when I lived in Nashville, would go to Gethsemane. Part of talking about coming apart, Gethsemane is a monastery, and it's where Thomas Merton resided, if you've heard of Thomas Merton. And it was I did a couple weeks, multiple times, or just a weekend, and it's just a way to come apart, be silent, and be in a place of nothingness, the place of non-thinking for a period of time. So Robert Burns quickly says, the way out is the way in. Quickest way through the void is to embrace each experience, to accept it. Don't fight it. Let go of resistance, but to accept it. Avoid making major decisions or long-term commitments, like I've said several times. Don't push the river. You know, if I'm finding I'm pushing the river, that's the ego doing that. So accept each day as it comes. He says another step to that, where you're in the void, is pray and meditate. Trust God, and then trust your own inner wisdom. You know, a lot of people and friends will tell us what to do, particularly with the relationships issue. Everybody wants to give advice on what we should do. So trust God and trust your own inner wisdom. Take care of yourself. Be gentle. Look for that place where there is only love. Look for that place where there's only a love. Pay attention to your dreams. He says that our dreams can teach us a lot, so pay attention to those. And a good way of doing that, as with everything, is keep a journal. Develop a support system. And whatever group that you can find a support system. Find that. And create some creative ritual to symbolize your new passage. Art. If Melissa's here, she'd be waving her hand, paint, creating vision boards. Whatever it is, sculptors, woodworking, whatever it is that you can create something to be creative. We don't need to resist the endings or the void, even our own death. You know, Michael Lister said last week that what if today was your last day? We're all going to die. Accept it. This is where we are. This is our reality. The void is our teacher. So I frequently quote, and I know Bill does too, John Shelby Spong, live life fully and love wastefully. to be the best you can be. Live life fully and love wastefully to be the best you can be, even in the void. Everything in the universe exists to develop mind and your consciousness, to evolve. The void is for evolution. So what's the implication of this? What's the potential? So what's the problem? If we exist, if everything exists to support us, what's the problem? The problem is we won't accept it. We won't accept what is. Accept what is. And accept that this is 3 words, I don't know. I don't know. Will solve a lot of angst, solve a lot of our suffering. I don't know. 3 words. You have in your body, your heart, your mind, the spirit, the wisdom of all the ages. You have it at your fingertips, the wonder of technology. You have the yin and yang of the universe flowing through you. Time is here, time is now, of consciousness constantly evolving. I'm equipped, it's inside, and so are you. Everything that you need from the universe is inside of you right now. So my challenge, and I propose it for years, is to embrace the void. If you're going through any kind of endings or if you're coming up, stay with it for as long as it takes. We'll talk on, after the talk, we'll talk a little bit about Robert Brummett gives 2 chapters in the book about the Exodus, the Jewish people, Hebrew people leaving Egypt and wandering the wilderness for 40 days before they found the promised land. Now the 40 days is a Hebrew term which means as long as it takes. They were out there running around for a lot more than 40 years, because if you read, that's the only time it really mentions that, but they were in Egypt and running around for a lot longer. 40 is a Hebrew term that means take whatever time it takes. Be in the void for whatever time it takes. Live beyond thought. Can we live beyond thought sometimes? And how do we get to this awakened state? So again, the last thing I would offer to you is embrace the mystery of not knowing. Namaste. So Bob's going to lead us in our closing songs.
Yeah. All right. There is only love. Great job. Thank you. And speaking of shadow work, that was in the news last week. The groundhog did a lot of that. Okay. Birthdays are a big deal here at Unity. Just ask Jean Warner. Her birthday was last month, but she celebrates it every day of the month. So, and of course, Unity's birthday was last month too. We were 43 years old last month. So here we are. I'm going to mention whose birthdays are in February. Oh my, I'm on there. Okay, so mine is the 10th, and Gail Woody, hers is the 4th, so that was yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah. And Luelle Stubbs, hers was yesterday. Nan Francis, where is she?
She's visiting her sisters in Orlando.
Okay, hers is... with the kids, 4 cats. Okay.
I can handle it, though.
All right. So happy birthday to Nan on the 14th. And, oh, it's not the 14th? Oh, 18th. Okay. Thank you. And Mary Langford, hers is the 18th. So we need to change that because we got it wrong on the paper here. And Chris Durham, hers is the 26th. Okay, so several birthdays. So we're going to sing our birthday song, the Unity version. Are you ready? Happy birthday to you. There's no one like you. Uniquely created. I love knowing you. I bless you with life and abundance galore. God bless you, my loved one, and have many more. Yeah. Okay. All right, we're going to end our service this morning. Oh, one thing I forgot. There's cupcakes in the kitchen, so don't forget to check those out. I think, Rose, there's 3 different kinds. Is that right? White, chocolate, and pumpkin.
White, dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate, okay. With kind of cream cheese icing. Okay, so there you go. And some without icing if you can't handle the cream cheese. All right. Let's make our circle. Sing our peace song. And then we'll end it with Chloe's favorite song, our prayer for protection.